welcome to episode 26 of the ADV podcast. We have a very important, as usual, episode for you today.
When is it not important?
Yeah, well, we're going to be catching you up on a lot of things that have been happening in China first. So our What's New segment is going to be quite a bit longer today. And then we're going to move into the main topic, which is all about how there's this state-sponsored IP theft program that comes out of China. Anyway, before we get started, you might notice that we're a little red.
I'm always red, but finally I have an excuse.
Yeah, maybe
I'm in pain.
For those of you who aren't familiar, you know, we of course our main focus is always China throughout our channels, but we do have a car channel, and I finally kind of fixed up a car, and we decided we'd go out and film them yesterday, and it was hot. I mean, take a look at the heat waves. You can just see how ridiculous it was. Anyway, when you drive around in an open, you know, the T-top's open in the middle of the day for 3 or 4 hours like we did yesterday, it tends to give you a bit of a sunburn.
It certainly does. And you know what's funny? It's because it wasn't that hot temperature-wise, you actually don't feel it. So you get home, and then like after dinner, you're just like, do I have a fever?
Yeah, what's going on?
Holy crap. But the funny thing is, you can see this part hasn't tanned or gotten red. So I have that kind of like mask tan line. Very period correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason we had to wear masks is because our cars are wide open. So when you're at stoplights and stuff, there's people walking around.
Yeah, exactly. You can't take a chance. We were going down by the coast, and you drive very slowly, and there are a lot of cyclists, and you come to a stop very often, like you say, people walking past. And you have to wear a mask for that reason, because remember, someone's this close to you and your T-top's
What if
open.
some homeless guy just runs up to you, asks for change or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Could be right in your face.
Anyway, so that's the reason. We're going to start with what's new. We have to talk a little bit about what's going on in China. There have been fresh outbreaks, which don't seem to make the news, but here we have a fresh outbreak. Where was it again?
I should probably play it on the screen.
Oh, I should probably play it on the screen.
Is that the first clip?
It is the first clip.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
So,
fresh outbreak.
In Wuhan again.
I would like to preface this by saying I get patron messages and emails every day talking about the real figures coming out of China. That was something that we were able to contest with reliable data from people on the ground in China when it first came out.
Sure.
But now it's so tightly controlled. What I tell people is that all the citizen journalists are gone. They've been arrested. They've censored every word related to coronavirus now at this point.
Yeah.
And everything is so tightly restricted that you're not getting reliable information out of it at all.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So occasionally we see little leaks. Anyway, this was May 12th, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what set this off was I saw in Harbin, remember when we went to Harbin?
Yeah.
There's full military on the streets because there's so many cases right now. They're just preventing anyone from going out. This one just came out very, very recently. This is in Wuhan, right?
It's in Wuhan. What was it called? We wrote it down.
Oh, yeah. This was in... Sorry, it's at the bottom here.
Yeah, there we go.
Sanmin community.
Yeah, that's right.
And they took away 180 people for quarantine, but that's public data
for
180 people in quarantine. I also saw some footage of them, police taking people away from their apartments at night.
Yeah.
So this is what they're doing, efforts to control the narrative.
Here's the whole thing about this, right? It's been since, what was it, March 28th that they banned foreigners from coming into China.
Correct.
So they can't blame it on foreigners anymore.
No.
I mean, these new outbreaks that are happening, they can't say, oh, it's because foreigners have just come in again.
I mean, they couldn't say that to begin with, but that's what they said.
They were saying that when 99 or 90-something% of all the cases that were happening in China, that were kind of reappearing in China, were from Chinese people actually returning from abroad, not foreigners. So what they did is they didn't ban Chinese people from abroad coming home, but they banned entry to all foreigners, for those of you who aren't aware. But up until recently, they've still been blaming all the new cases on foreigners. That's why we had that huge xenophobic thing happen in Guangzhou. All the anti-African stuff, no blacks allowed, no blacks being served, no foreigners allowed. Because that's the narrative, is that, no, it's not China. It's not China's fault. It's a foreign issue.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the whole timeline, if we go through this, you can pull up the photo that we're about to talk about. The whole timeline, you know, we went through was, yes, it was found in Wuhan. Let's blame Wuhan.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, maybe it wasn't, but we think maybe it was from wet markets. Let's shut down wet markets. Oh, actually, no, it probably came from abroad. Let's blame Italy. Oh, actually, probably Japan. Oh, actually,
France.
America. And then now France. Now the state kind of pushed the idea that it was from the American military, and it was state-sponsored tweets and all this kind of stuff. And then they told their citizens that, and we've cordially talked to people, dear friends of ours in China, that are not mad at the West or mad at us for this happening.
Sure.
But they fully believe, or at least entertain the idea, that it definitely came from the U.S.
It's actually quite disturbing because I know lots of Chinese people who are saying it definitely came from from America. It was found there first now, but there are other people that even though they're super smart and intelligent, they're like well, we can't prove it didn't come from the U.S.
Well, they're not consuming any other idea.
Yeah. So it leads to things like this sign up in Wuhan at the market now saying, in order to prevent catching or spreading the American pneumonia virus, you can see the characters there say Meiguo. It's the American virus. You must wear masks, etc., etc. So now even in the public they are kind of labeling it the American virus.
Even
in China.
Wuhan.
Yeah, in Wuhan, where it came from. So just to let you know that this is working incredibly well, the CCP's narrative that this virus is not their fault and has nothing to do with China. It's actually a foreign devil thing.
Originally it was like China giving a middle finger to the West with a wolf warrior diplomacy saying, no, it actually didn't come from here. But now I think a lot of people have been ignoring the actual soft power within China, convincing their own citizens that has actually worked.
Yeah.
It has sparked debate in the West where I would say the majority of people are like, that's ridiculous, go screw yourself, CCP.
Sure.
Whereas in China, that actually worked. Because there's only one news source.
Yeah, right. So it's worked very well for the CCP. Okay, cool. Let's see what's next on the list.
Yeah, we have we have some funny stuff too.
Yeah, it can't just all be doom and gloom.
This is semi-funny?
It's kind of funny.
I feel bad.
You can explain what happened here.
So this guy, he's a famous opera singer from China, but he moved abroad. I mean, he goes back all the time.
Yeah.
Well loved within China and abroad. Mm-hmm. Very supportive of the CCP.
Yeah, so he's a TikTok, right?
This is Douyin.
Okay, Douyin, which is TikTok. It's TikTok. It's the same thing.
So he's a prime example of a person in his 50s or 60s that is very supportive of his country, very aigua, as we say, nationalist.
Yeah, very nationalist.
But also happy-go-lucky and quite friendly looking.
Sure.
Like I said, he's very well renowned as a good opera singer.
Yeah.
And part of his repertoire when he sings in China is nationalist songs, or Hongge, as we say, which means red songs.
Yes.
Pro-communism songs. So he gets contacted by some officials.
Yeah.
That went through Douyin to report his account based on his avatar. Yeah. And let's ask the audience, we'll give him 5 seconds. If you look at his picture, who does he look like?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay, time's up. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
He looks like Xi Jinping.
Yeah. Right? So he's actually banned because his avatar, they said that he was basically using the avatar of Xi Jinping. You're not allowed to. Right. So because he looks so much like Xi Jinping, they banned him.
But the really nice kind of nice guy that he is, he didn't blame anyone, although he has a massive account. Yeah. So he contacts the officials. He contacts Douyin as well, and he says, you know what? If it's not a big deal, I'm clearly not using Xi Jinping's avatar. Yeah. I guess I look like him. So a lot of people were looking into this. He's never once claimed he looks like him.
No.
No one even pushes this narrative.
No.
Douyin and the officials went after him for this. And as far as I know, his account, as of right now, is still gone, based on the fact that he looks like Xi Jinping. So the Chinese government is so insecure that someone may look like someone.
Yeah.
Not on purpose, may look like someone that he may be mistaken for the dear, amazing leader. And this is the pedestal we're looking at that they put their leaders on.
Put it into another perspective. Let's just say that you look like Obama or you look like Trump or something. I
think I resemble Obama.
Yeah, okay. And you make your normal social media post, got nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with anything. It's your own thing, opera singing and stuff. And the government comes and shuts down your account, says you may not have an account because you look like the president.
I think it's important to make that comparison because you got to understand how ridiculous that is.
Yeah. Everybody who is trying to support China and the CCP, and when I say China, I mean the CCP government, you have to understand that these are the people you're supporting, people that cannot even accept a lookalike.
Right.
Having their own opinion online because it might somehow tarnish their great leader's image.
And devil's advocate really quickly, actually not even devil's advocate, but the discussion around this on Chinese internet, people are baffled. And it shows you the disconnect. There's actually quite a big disconnect between the populace and the government here. When the government makes such a knee-jerk, retarded, ridiculous example, you're looking at something like this and you look at the Weibo post and people are like, are you kidding me? This nice opera singer that represents our country abroad? Huge disconnect.
Yeah,
poor guy. But anyway, I want to finish this up. I don't think that this is going to be a permanent ban.
No, sure.
It'll probably come back, but it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, totally.
It's like
Okay, yeah.
Okay, let me explain something.
Sure.
So, if you guys have watched my last video, I covered the Chinese propaganda on TikTok.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say this because a lot of people are not of the age demographic that they will be on TikTok. Personally, if I weren't dealing with Chinese media, I wouldn't be on TikTok either.
Sure.
Right? But you have to understand how prevalent this app is around the world right now. It's one of the most popular social media apps in the whole world. And Chinese propaganda, CCP propaganda, has infiltrated it so deeply that when you go on the For You page, which is kind of like the homepage of YouTube, right? You will be inundated with soft power propaganda. So I covered that. I covered some white people that were doing it for China. I covered a lot of this stuff, soft power stuff. And there was this anthropology professor that kept popping up. And I covered his circular reasoning. He basically goes out there to say, like, the CCP is great, and we should just, always question, like, do you think I'm Chinese? It's a hard question to answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I wanted to give you guys a treat that had watched that video. I found another video that he did, and I hope you guys enjoy the circular reasoning.
Yeah, so we're going to play it and try and make sense of it.
Convert people's belief in many ways. Education, one of the part of the education in anthropology is to let you see there are alternatives. There are different people, there are different beliefs, and they see the same thing differently. If you stay in a narrow-minded cultural context, you tend to see things, in binary, right? And that makes a huge difference.
So, I mean,
is this guy's name Daniel?
It could be.
Just asking.
Now, he always says these truth bombs, and one of my favorite ones from my video was, what you believe is not what you believe, or something like that. There are different people with different beliefs who see things differently. Now, do you remember, Winston, what was the initial question of this video?
Do Chinese people eat wild
No,
animals?
it was that was step one. This one was, is it right? Is it okay to eat?
Is it okay to eat? Yeah.
So this is what we've learned. Did we answer the question?
No. No, you see, this is a tactic I've seen employed by a lot of people who defend the CCP, is when presented with a question, a very simple question, they will go on these kind of like pseudo-intellectual lectures about, think about this and what about that, and put yourself in these shoes, and it's healthy to have a different perspective, and what would happen if you had to have an uncomfortable thought about something, and by the time they finish their garbage, they still haven't answered the question.
No.
But all they've tried to confuse you and try to make you feel inferior for asking the question.
Right.
That's the whole thing that they're trying to do, is shut you down through this ridiculous doublespeak. So yeah. Anyways.
And that's this whole narrative. Anyway, the whole point is on TikTok there are so many things like this, but I've uncovered, not to spoil my next video, I've uncovered a much more sinister one that I'm going to cover next week. Cool.
All right. So that lovely truth bomb. Okay. We have to follow up. We've spoke about this in the previous podcast, about how the CBC, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, made a hit piece on the Epoch Times, called them, said that they were spreading rumors and that they were racist and all this kind of nonsense. You did a follow-up video where you went more in depth into it, but things have happened since then, and we wanted to talk a little bit about it. So
let's give them a refresher.
Yeah, go for it.
A refresher of the video.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Watch this.
But it did seem to allude to conspiracy theories, like, maybe it was manufactured, this virus was manufactured in a lab. Well, no, we know scientifically that's just not true.
The special edition of the paper explores the idea that COVID-19 was created as a bioweapon in a lab by the...
Okay, those of you who were here last time will remember our good friend with the very badly drawn picture of a horse in the background. I apologize if that was like her 3-year-old daughter that drew it for her, but whatever.
We're going to need to question, like, what is art?
Yeah, exactly. But in the article, as you heard, the article said that it was a bioweapon. They actually used that word, manufactured in a lab, and a bioweapon, which is actually not in the article.
Not only that, this woman, we called her Karen, this woman claimed the exact same thing. So that legitimately means that either she didn't read the article, because there's not one mention of it in there, or she was reading off a script.
Now, we actually found out something about this woman. maybe you want to fill people in. What is it that she does?
When I tried to contact her, because I was deeply concerned about this, and when they put out two of the exact same things, like smearing the Epoch Times, both of us were discussing, why would you put out the exact same video with different people in the same scenario? It's too weird. Yeah. So we were digging in and we were trying to make contact. We made contact with one of the mailmen, which we'll talk about later. But this woman I tried to contact, she is a web designer.
Yes.
And so I used her just public email form. Just wanted to ask her some questions, but she didn't reply. What we did find out was a nice subscriber from the same area of Canada as this person.
It's a very small, small town area.
Its primary investor is a CCP-backed wine company.
Yes.
Who this person was doing web development for, building a website for this, right? And the tie here is a little suspicious. We won't make any claims, obviously.
Well,
but
look, the CCP comes in, invests in the vineyards there because they do ice wine. I think it was $8 million.
$8 million.
So they invest the money in, and then they get her to build the website. And here she is parroting the CCP narrative. It sounds a little bit too good to be true.
Sure.
You know, it's a little bit too.
But that's as far as we can go on that.
We're not going to say it's outright, but like we did find that out, and that does make some sense.
So yeah, keep going.
Okay,
notice how you can't read the article. We pointed this out last time.
Yeah, exactly. But the rest of the video is quite clear. I mean, I can see that horse picture in the background.
Well, in my video when I did the follow-up, I actually let the people read it.
Yeah. But so they're saying that they did this hit piece and said, okay, the bioweapon thing, which is actually not true.
Right.
And then after the bioweapon thing,
so there's not much we can tell you guys about this, but what we do know is that the postmen that they interviewed and blurred out because they were just so offended for handing out this newspaper that said bad things about the CCP. Their claim was that it is racist to be against the Communist Party of China.
Yes.
Right. And I was actually under the impression that maybe these people were, in fact, told to say this. Yeah. But it turns out that maybe, again, not too much detail, maybe it was actually their own opinion.
Sure.
Which shocks me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of backlash. And what happened was, finally, the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, had to make a retraction. So they basically said, okay, your article didn't say that it was a bioweapon. Yeah. We were wrong. Yeah. And maybe it was in poor taste to title this that, like, Canadians are offended. Because if we pull up a little data here...
Yeah, take a look. At the moment, this is how Canadians feel about China, how they view China. You know, look, at least from my understanding as an outsider, I've always seen Canadians as super, like, bleeding heart, liberal, love human rights and democracy and, you know, caring people. I'm not trying to say this in a condescending way. I'm trying to say the Canadians that I know, at least, all seem to sort of put humanity above everything else and being humane and, you know, being good people and good Dudley Do-Rights, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so, of course, when things start to happen and you start to have these realizations on how China does deal with human rights, and they captured those Canadians, one of them our friends, the two Michaels, and they've done all these things in retaliation to the whole Huawei thing. Of course, people's public opinion of China is going to start changing. And in fact, it was very positive, but we'll show you.
Yeah, go to the next slide.
But this is currently, according to the Angus Reid Institute, 14% favorable. And don't forget that a massive portion of the population in Canada are Chinese. Mainland Chinese. Something like 5.8. It was 5.8%. So you can take that 5.8% and minus it away from the 14%.
Yeah.
And the remainder that's left over is probably going to be naturalized Chinese people that have become Canadian citizens.
I mean, and a huge pushback were from Chinese Canadians that have naturalized against this. And I say pushback against this stupid CBC thing that they did. Yeah. They're like, that's not racist.
Exactly. Anyway,
let's look at the trend. It's quite interesting, and it plays into your idea that Canadians have been quite open-minded. Look at 2005. If you look at 2005, between 2005 and 2000, let's say 2009, that was China's golden period that we talk about, right? And it was fairly favorable.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, that's around about the time I got to China, 2006. So right in the beginning, like February of 2006. And China was a different place.
It was.
And the dealings China had with the world at that time was very different. Things were changing rapidly. And so that's why I think the world just altogether decided that they would forgive a lot of the sort of missteps of the past because they could see the promise for the future. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, you screwed up. Yes, you did have these horrible communist programs that killed your own people. People died and had to resort to cannibalism and stuff and all that kind of nonsense. But guess what? That's in the past. You're improving now. You're opening up. Everybody's friends. We love you. You love us. Let's keep going. And so look, 58% of people are favorable.
It's directly correlated with the way that Chinese people treated us in China as well.
Yeah,
it was a very positive experience at that time in that period because everyone was happy. They were making money, and they knew that the cooperation with the Western world was a good thing. Yeah, and so did we, right?
Yeah. See where it starts to really decline though is like when the whole Huawei thing starts happening. I mean, all
Xi Jinping starts busting out.
There's all sorts of things that just started to come together all at the same time. All these corruption scandals that were, when it comes to immigration scandals with Canada, because Canada's got a very easy to exploit immigration system if you have a lot of money. So the thing is, there are a lot of corrupt officials in China who have a lot of money and a lot of corrupt businessmen and stuff. Those are not the kind of people you actually want going to your country. No. But those are the people that could exploit the system to go to Canada. Those are the people buying up all the homes in your neighborhood and leaving them vacant and driving up the property prices, that kind of thing, which doesn't help people's favorability of a certain type of people.
If you look at immigration, and we're not anti-immigration at all, do not think
No, I'm very pro-immigration if it's done correctly.
But listen, so like if you take China out of the equation, if you're talking about a country in Europe or Japan, let's say Japan, okay? A Japanese immigrant, let's say that they're wealthy. Yeah. There is a good chance that they're highly educated. There's a good chance that they probably do some sort of business or something like that, right? There's a good chance that if they're choosing to immigrate to a different country, that their principles are correct and they're good and they will integrate in some way, shape, or form, and they won't be a corrupt criminal dictator in their own country. Yeah. But when you put China into this, and that's how most countries look at it, right? Yeah. They want to attract talent, wealthy talent to their country. Any country wants that. Sure. When you look at China, the worst people tend to have the most money because they're in the government and they're laundering money abroad. So that's the problem with Chinese immigration when you're talking about CCP officials moving abroad.
Well, I mean, we had a good laugh because this is a number of years back, but there's a story, and we went through a whole lot because they uncovered that huge immigration scandal where what was happening was Chinese people wanted a Canadian citizenship so they could get the benefits of having a Canadian citizenship. Sure. So that means free schooling, free healthcare, all that kind of crap. But they didn't want to live in Canada. So what they do is they do this kind of scam where they go there, leave, then mail their passports back, and then like an agent would pretend that they were receiving money. They'd obviously be paying for this. Would like fraudulently make stamps, entry and exit stamps in their passport and stuff. And their passport would just stay there in Canada, and they'd use like all these little tricks to trick the system. So the person could just carry on with their life in China. And then after however many years, they would suddenly become a Canadian citizen because their passport had been there and been stamped all the time. But they would still send their children to get the free schooling and stuff.
Healthcare.
And free healthcare. And then like the one story that really like pushed me over the edge was the guy, like billionaire, right? So his daughter's growing up in Canada, going to school. He claims that he's low income. Right. He claims that he's poor.
Right.
And he's in that bracket. So he starts actually receiving money from the state because he's like
welfare.
Poor. Yeah, welfare. And then he goes and buys his daughter a brand new Mercedes-Benz cash. And that's what tipped them off. It's like, hang on a second. So, I mean, this guy's a billionaire sending his kids and taking money from the Canadian taxpayer. That's the thing, is these the people that are going to come and contribute to your country. These are not the people that you want. These are the people that are going to come and exploit your system. Right. And that's obviously why you see such a decline.
And it sucks because that really detracts from the actual Chinese people that wanted to naturalize because they wanted to leave China, whom I've met many of at subscriber meetups.
Correct. I mean, we met that guy, not in Canada, but here in the States.
I met some in Canada.
Yeah. I mean, we met that guy in Las Vegas, remember?
Yeah.
And he's been here for years, and he's also kind of naturalized. He works in the casinos and stuff. But there are so many good, hardworking Chinese people that come through and actually try to do things legitimately, and they're just undermined by these corrupt, rich, like unscrupulous people.
Not only that, being harassed in their own Chinese communities in America and Canada by the mainland Chinese that don't integrate and have all the money and power.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Anyway, sorry about
that's our follow-up.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue here. That was the follow-up from that. Sorry, I think we did lose our stream for a second there. If we did, we apologize. We're back now anyway. Okay, so let's take a couple of super chats before we move on to the main topic.
I'm just going to tell everyone to refresh.
Yeah.
So that they're all caught up. Mm-hmm. Okay, let us do that very thing.
Right.
SC1338 says, have any more t-shirts with you punching the clown? We do not. We may bring them back at some point.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. The way that merch works, it's not like a permanent store. It's like a 2-week run.
Yeah.
So when we like release a t-shirt, it's only out for 2 weeks, but we can bring them back at some point if enough people want them.
I'd love to. I love that design. I mean, I need a new one anyway because I work on my cars and stuff and they get dirty.
Yeah, I've worn that thing to death. Sorry, JPN, some dollary-doos. A few of your guys' back catalog videos have provided valuable arguments online to the Vietnam is the new China and others are seeing traction with me. Yeah, I noticed that. We've covered a lot of topics where we predict things and they tend to be true.
I mean, it's not like a prediction thing.
Yeah,
it's when you understand
for sure
a place well enough. It's like if you understand a person well enough. If you've known a person, let's just say your sister or your brother or something, and you know them for so long, or your best friend, you tend to know what they're going to do and you tend to understand how they work.
Yeah.
So it's kind of very easy to say, oh, they're doing that because they want this.
Correct.
You know? Oh, correct. Why are they suddenly like making me a tea in the morning and bringing me a biscuit and stuff? It's because they want to ask me a favor. You know, that kind of thing. So you get to know a person, and because we lived in China for so long, and of course we have Chinese family, we know China quite well and speak the language and all that kind of thing. And I think that helps us predict a lot of what's happening. Yeah.
Correct. Do one more.
Sure.
Jan Faustka, again, thank you. Hi guys, I just bought a new Xiaomi. My condolences. Does the CCP have spy programs in the phone that are sold in China? I bought a Huawei while in China and Google Play can't be installed. Thanks. All the best to both your families. Yeah, they are hard. They are hard locked.
Yeah.
If you buy them in China.
Them, yeah. Well, I mean, I made a video where I actually went and bought one, and the guys in the shop actually hacked it and sideloaded the Google Play Store onto it was an Oppo that I bought and gave away a while ago. Look, I mean, unfortunately, if you are in China and you're using a Chinese phone, you're definitely going to have some kind of spyware because it's part of the whole ecosystem there. People don't mind. And that's why they've been so successful in tracking the COVID, the Wuhan flu, infections and stuff, is because people basically don't have a choice. In fact,
Correct.
You don't have a choice. If you want to gain access into restaurants and things, you need that QR code. In order to have that, you need to have an app on your phone that tracks you everywhere you go. And every
Correct.
time you go into a supermarket and get scanned or whatever, it tells Big Brother, you've been there, you've been there, you've been there. And people accept it. And it makes their lives a lot easier, but at the same time, they sacrifice freedom. So
Jan is not in China. When they were in China, they had bought that. But there's a lot of security risks in buying a Chinese phone, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, if you can get something else.
It,
You know, that's the thing. A lot of people have been contacting me, and us also personally. Right now, we're very unhappy with the way that the Chinese Communist Party has dealt with the whole situation and put us in this bad situation. So a lot of people are saying, look, we want to boycott made in China products. What can we do? And everyone seems to think that it's impossible, but it's not, because think about it. Korea makes Samsung and LG, and, of course, Japan makes Sony. And, you got these very big, good brands that you can buy, which aren't made in China.
Anymore, at least.
But people keep forgetting the other big one, which is Taiwan. And Taiwan makes fantastic products. Asus. If you're a gamer, you know all about Asus, Gigabyte, all these big brands. Acer also comes from Taiwan. You get phones, HTC, that kind of thing. So, you don't have to buy made in China. You actually don't. So if that's a choice you've made and you would like to boycott buying made in China, there are so many other options out there.
Agreed.
So don't feel like you're trapped into only buying made in China.
Do a little research.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as that whole boycotting made in China stuff is concerned, I don't want to see the average Chinese person hurt by anything like that. But at the same time, I think a clear message has to be sent to the CCP. And I firmly believe that it's a good thing to do. I will not force my wife or my Chinese friends to boycott Chinese goods because that's stupid. That's like that they can, support their country as much as they want, and that's their right. But me personally, if I have a choice, I will stay away from buying made in China for now.
And we've always been of the opinion that China will need an economic wake-up call to actually have some political change.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Cool.
All right.
Should we move on to our next segment, which of course is... Oh, we forgot to do the whole what's new little thing, so I'm just putting the slide up now.
Oh, nice. Just in case you guys missed it.
Yeah. Okay, our main topic, of course, Soft Power Hour, everybody. And this is where we talk about how China's trying to change your mind and take advantage of the freedom of the West in order to, put their dastardly little deeds out there. Yes. So we've got a big one today. And this one is the 1,000 Talents program. Mm-hmm. So... probably put that over there. So maybe you can give a quick gloss over of what the 1,000 Talents program is.
Well, if you guys see this picture, it's quite interesting. That star in the middle says Ba Yi, and that is the Chinese military.
Yes.
So the 1,000 Talents program is a program that has 3 branches. And I'll just read the blurb here. There's the innovative 1,000 Talents program, which is long-term or short-term for Chinese scholars under 55 years old, right?
Right.
Then you have the foreign 1,000 Talents program. This is for foreigners. This is to attract long-term foreigners into China if they're under 55.
Yes.
And then there's the Young Scholar 1,000 Talents program, or Overseas Young Talents program for those of under 40 years of age. And what this is basically the Chinese government released this press statement where they said the best talented Chinese students tend to go to foreign universities. Yes. And a lot of them afterwards tend to stay there. So how do we attract them back to China with the information that they've learned or gotten within, let's say, America? Yeah. Right? Well, we come up with this program. We award them 1 million RMB, which is what? $250,000 something. And then they come back with that information. And that was the guise, right? We're going to get our talent back into China. We don't want a brain drain.
Sure.
Right? Sure. Unfortunately, this turned into a military effort as well. Yeah. So they were sending PLA, which is People's Liberation Army, scientists abroad, predominantly in Australia, but a lot in America as well. And they would go there and they would get ties, they would make connections, guanxi as we say in Chinese, and they'd learn trade secrets, they'd learn military secrets. Yeah. They'd get inside of companies, work there for a very long time, and then come back to China with that information. And that's where you see IP theft. Not only, it's not a secret, where IP theft comes from, when China gets all this technology that's stolen from abroad. You're looking at a situation where China's actively rewarding and creating government initiatives for this thing.
Absolutely.
Right? That's a synopsis of it.
It's pretty crazy if you look at it from an outside perspective. The Chinese government will reward you if you manage to steal secrets from the US or from Australia or abroad, basically.
Correct.
And we're going to give you a couple of examples. But it's not only they give you 1 million RMB back, they actually approach foreign professors or foreign professionals or people working in big companies or sensitive companies. Like if you work in a military, a company that has contracts to the military or something, they will approach you, wine and dine you, offer you all sorts of rewards, money, and of course, if you're ethnically Chinese, which is their main target, they'll go for someone who's maybe American, but ethnically Chinese, maybe second generation, maybe just naturalized, and they will offer them a lot of rewards back home in China. Oh, if you get this information for us, we will set you up with your own lab in China. We will set you up with your own school or your own office or your own company and give you however many million RMBs in grants and stuff if you get this stuff. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of what we've uncovered and a lot of what's coming to light these days is a situation where you'll get something like a professor or a scientist who's receiving grants from the government where they are currently studying or doing their things, right? So for instance, in Australia, they'll be receiving taxpayers' money, grants, in order to do research on, say, a new drug.
Correct.
Okay. But at the same time, they're receiving the money from the Chinese government, the 1,000 Talents program, which they're keeping secret. And a lot of these scientists and so on people are actually part of the People's Liberation Army, part of the army, the Chinese army, but they're there. And so they're receiving money from Australia or from the US or whatever in order to develop something. But that thing that they're developing ultimately ends up going back to
Correct.
China.
Correct.
So they're taking advantage of the situation in such a underhanded way. It's not even funny.
I mean, we're dealing with a country that is opposed to our values in the West, right?
Yeah.
And this is a tightly controlled thing. Now, an interesting thing that I came to the conclusion of after reading all this stuff was when I talked about the Foreign Talents Program, the idea was that you attract these top scientists and bring them to China, and then they stay there to contribute. But they've had an absolute failure of trying to keep foreign professors and scientists within China.
Yeah.
And you guys have heard the word 差不多 quite often. It means like good enough.
Yeah.
What happens is they'll get the reward money, but then they're promised free accommodations, oftentimes a green card, and they fail to deliver over and over again.
Yeah.
So the foreigners that go over there, they're still free to go back home.
Yeah.
The reason they're so successful with these PLA scientists and people they send over abroad, or these students, the reason, and when they've done research on this, they keep finding that they always come home on time after their contract is over.
Yeah.
The reason being is that these foreigners are not tied up with the Communist Party in the most directive senses. They still have their passport from back home.
Sure.
So when they get dissatisfied with this whole thing, they go home.
Yeah.
The Chinese people, on the other hand, imagine you're this scientist and you join the PLA, right?
Yeah.
You get accepted in this program, so your family gets this money, you get this money. You don't have the luxury anymore to stay abroad. You can't do that anymore because you are tied in all of your information with the CCP. And if you don't come back home, you're done, right? It's not like a normal schleb that goes to college at UCLA and decides to stay afterwards.
Sure.
You're enticed by this program and the money, and then you are locked in. You have to go back to China with this information.
Now, you know, I like idioms and stuff.
It's a spy program.
Yeah, it is a spy program. But, you know, I love idioms and stuff. And the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, actually has a name for this whole program of theirs, and it's called Picking Flowers in Foreign Lands to Make Honey in China.
That's correct.
And that's literally what they're trying to do, is they're trying to send their scientists and influence. Look, it's not just scientists, right?
No.
Chinese students studying abroad are also approached all the time. If they're in some kind of a sensitive university that's studying a specific thing, or if they have access to any kind of data or research or biosamples or any kind of thing like that, they will be approached and be like, listen, this is good for your motherland, and if you can get this, it's good, you're a good Chinese person.
And that is not to say the majority of them take that offer.
Of course not, but I'm saying this happens all the time because so many cases have been uncovered, and they're told this will be good for your motherland, this is going to be great, and we will reward you, you'll have 1 million RMB when you come back, and you'll have like all this kind of stuff, and a lot of them take the bait. Okay, and also a lot of them do these stupid things like, how many people have they caught at that base in Florida trying to take photos? It's the same thing where they're like, just go there, see if you can get some photos and stuff. And they keep catching, you know, Chinese students and tourists walking into this like military base taking photos because they just have this everyman approach. You see, to be a spy in China doesn't mean you have to like be a James Bond or be trained or anything. China treats every single one of its citizens abroad as a potential source of information. And so that's why you'll find out in all these little Chinese student groups and in, you know, Chinese little groups all over the place, there's always someone with some kind of connection back to the CCP who's constantly keeping an eye on what's going on, constantly sort of influencing the group and sending information back to
remember we were speaking to Chinese university students who are absolutely loving living in LA. Yeah. And they keep talking about there's always this one outlier that has some rich dad in the PLA or in the government and stuff, and they always feel threatened around them. They can't fully participate in the American education system. Because if they say the wrong thing, then they report back. Yeah. How is that allowed?
All of the Chinese student associations within the universities in America and abroad in Australia and stuff, all of them report back to the local consulate. All of them. Okay, and the consulate helps them out because they give them funding for little programs and things to do. But it keeps the Chinese students fiercely nationalistic and also completely under the thumb of the CCP. That means they can't step out of line.
You know, the thing is, a good chunk of them are not nationalistic, but they dare not say otherwise.
Yeah.
You know?
Correct.
And that's awful.
It's a terrible situation. So this 1,000 Talents program reaches out across the board. So, I thought we'd give you like at least an example here, shall we? Or two?
Yeah, so to preface this, the 1,000 Talents program still, although the FBI calls it a national security threat, it's not outright banned. Yeah. So if you're part of this 1,000 Talents program, it's not like if you come to America, you go to jail. Yeah. The problem comes when they're going to have eyes on you, right? Yeah. If you're part of this and you're part of some sensitive thing, you can't get access to that sensitive stuff anymore. Sure. So yeah, I'm in the PLA, I come over, I'm in the 1,000 Talents program, but I'm not going to be allowed into some like lab that has like intellectual property. So they have to hide it.
Yeah, they always hide it. Now this is a very, very interesting situation how this guy got caught. But basically, he was receiving funding from NASA. He had like a $500,000 grant from NASA and various other places to do his research, etc. And they can say he was arrested because he failed to disclose his connections. Now, that's the thing. If you're working with sensitive stuff like him, if you're getting grants from NASA and so on, you will be asked outright, of course, do you have ties to the Chinese government? Do you have ties to the 1,000 Talents program? He said no. He lied. They caught him out. You know how they caught him out? He misplaced his hard drive, like an external hard drive. It ended up in the lost and found at the university. So someone checked it to see who it belonged to, and it had like a unconfidential.pdf. Can you read what it said in there?
Okay, guys. All right. Dear Researcher 1, I want you to, and this is what was in the file.
Researcher 1, they've redacted. Yeah.
I want you to understand that I will do my best to support your stay here in Arkansas. So he's talking to a Chinese researcher.
Yes.
There are things that are becoming very difficult for me recently because of the political climate. You can search the Chinese website regarding what the U.S. will do to 1,000 talent scholars. Him.
Yeah.
Not many people here know I'm one of them, but if this leaks out, my job here will be in deep troubles, plural. I have to be very careful or else I may be put out of a job from this university. I hope you understand my deep concerns. Please keep this to yourself as I trust you.
Yeah, so that's the thing. He was only caught because he was stupid. He was only caught because he was stupid and misplaced his hard drive.
Right.
How many people are operating as Chinese agents within your university and within your company? It's just impossible to know because this is such a far-reaching thing.
And again, it's not it's an innate problem, but it's not illegal to be part of this talent program. But it's illegal to be part of a talent program that's funded by the Chinese government, who reports directly to Beijing and then not disclose that because it gives you access to high-level information.
Yeah, no. Before we continue, before people think we're trying to profile like Asian people, it's not just Asian people. Foreigners are being targeted as well. Like this Harvard University professor. Maybe you can read about him. You've written something down there.
Yeah, let me pull it up here. So he was part of the foreign talent program. So this is a guy that was receiving funding from China.
Yeah.
The problem with that is not that he was receiving the funding or that he was part of the talents program. It's that he was working in high-level sensitive information.
Yeah.
In brain technology, biotechnology, right?
Yeah.
So this guy, his name was Charles M. Lieber, and it says, the success of the program in recruiting the U.S. trained scientists back to China has been viewed with concern from the U.S. Intelligence Council, declaring an underlying motivation of the program to facilitate the legal and illicit transfer of U.S. technology, intellectual property, and know-how to China. In January 2020, the FBI arrested Charles M. Lieber, the chair of Harvard University's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology, for lying about his ties to the program. So he outright said, when the FBI questioned him, no, I don't have ties to the Chinese program, because obviously he's funneling information from America back to China.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So yeah, foreigners, I say foreigners, Americans get caught up in this as well.
Yeah, people who are not Chinese.
I call myself a foreigner.
Yeah, don't call yourself a foreigner. You're not a foreigner, not anymore. Anyway, look, the fact of the matter is that it's a difficult one because it's not always monetary. There was the other Chinese guy who, not that long ago, let me think. I want to get my facts straight here. But he basically stole information about submarine propulsion systems.
Yeah.
And he was shipping it to China. He would write CDs and then give it to his relatives who would visit him and stuff to take back to China.
Correct.
And when the FBI caught on to this and they tracked him, they realized that he wasn't doing it for any money. He wasn't receiving money for this. He was just doing it because he thought it would be a good thing to do for China, for his homeland, right? Sure. And when they actually sat down, because he actually worked for the Navy, I believe, and they asked him, like, why would you do this? It's like, well, because I'm helping China out, I'm just helping them out. It's like, yeah, but do you agree that by helping them, you're actually hurting the Navy you work for? And he was like, yeah, he conceded that that's what he was doing. But it's a lot of this nationalist stuff as well. So it's a very tough thing to keep an eye on. We're dealing with one of the most sophisticated and most widespread information networks in the world. And the problem is, you will never be able to just figure out who it is because it could be anyone.
Right.
And every time we find out a bust, like that guy who was putting things in the hotel as a dead drop, he just turned out to be an average, regular Chinese guy that you'll see hanging around.
Average Joe.
Average Joe, your neighbor who's an awesome person to hang around with, but he was actually acting as a very high level, espionage guy. It's a tough thing to deal with because we all know China does IP theft, but you have to understand that the scale as to which it's being done is unprecedented. No other country in the world has ever done anything like this.
I guess the issue that we have to deal with is that there shouldn't... it sounds like it's the promotion of paranoia against Chinese people or something, and that's just not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is trying to make a more robust system that vets people that have connections to the Chinese government, because when you have connections to the Chinese government, it's not like dealing with someone that has connections to the German government or Canadian government. You're talking about a very corrupt and very evil system that is built on screwing people over and deception. Right. And that's the problem. It's not Chinese people, but it's Chinese people with very close ties to the CCP are dangerous to have in Western nations.
I also hope that by exposing some of this stuff, the people that are falling victim, and by victim I mean the Chinese people that are coerced into doing this kind of stuff, won't have to be in the future as much, because a lot of the times the reason people get talked into this, students, etc., is because they are fearful of what will happen to their families back home if they don't comply.
Correct.
And this is a very bad system. If we can somehow topple the system, or at least put it out in the sunlight so that everybody can see what's going on, perhaps they won't be able to threaten these students and threaten these people anymore with harm to their families, because the rest of the world will see it for what it is and not accept it anymore.
Right. Correct. That's a good point.
It's a tough one to go on. So
cool. So do some super chats.
I think we should. I think we've talked enough about this. You can do a little bit of research into the 1,000 Talents program.
Sure.
I actually want to throw another thing in here before we finish, and that is one more story, and it's got to do with the Confucius Institute. Now, the Confucius Institute, you may know of it if you are a university student or you have ties to a university. A lot of the universities around the States and in other countries have a Confucius Institute, and it's supposed to be a cultural exchange program. And for all intents and purposes, it actually is. They've got free Mandarin lessons. They kind of put on these shows where they have traditional Chinese music and clothing and things, which is all very nice. And that's why it's so attractive to both students and universities, because they're like, this is wonderful. It's funded by the Beijing government, Of course, the universities provide funding too. They provide facilities, offices, classrooms, things like that. So it's kind of a half-half thing. But the underlying force behind the Confucius Institute is propaganda. And I actually witnessed that and experienced it firsthand. And I've told the story before, but I'm going to tell it one more time for those of you who may not have heard it before, because it ties into all of this.
Why don't you make yourself big?
Yeah, okay. There we are. So when I came for my first road trip through America, which was in 2016, I was invited to speak at the University of Arizona in Tucson by a subscriber and a very nice guy who runs the journalism department. Right. I had just completed with you Conquering Southern China. Go watch that if you haven't, which is a fantastic documentary.
Jesse, please put a link.
Yeah, if you can. So anyway, I had some clips and I had like the advert, the sort of preview of the show, and I actually went to show them, I think the first episode of the show is like a way for everyone to see. So I went there and the classroom was kind of packed.
Right.
And then I noticed a whole bunch of sort of Chinese middle-aged women and stuff came in there, and like normal students and things. And then when they all came in, some of the Chinese students that were there actually left. And I was like, this is a bit weird, but whatever. They all went in there and I showed a bit of the show and I was talking about it. And this one woman in particular, who seemed to be the ringleader, kept taking down notes the whole time as I was talking. And she constantly interrupted me, which was really annoying. Because I was explaining, and one part that really stuck out in my mind, I was explaining we drove through rural Guizhou, which has some of the worst roads I've ever experienced in my life. So I'm trying to explain how bad the roads were, and she would constantly stop me and say, yes, but China is advancing so fast, and all the roads are really good. You just came across one bad road or something like that, And she kept...
She's never seen it.
Exactly. Every time I was trying to describe something which she thought put China in some kind of a negative light, she would interrupt me and try to correct me in front of everyone. I was like, who is this woman? What's going on? Why? I'm not in China, but why do I have basically Xi Jinping in my classroom here telling me what I can and can't say about China? And then I found out that her and all the other people that came with her are part of the Confucius Institute. And that's what they do, is they keep an eye on all of the Chinese students.
That's why they left, right?
Yeah. That's why initially those Chinese students left. They obviously felt very uncomfortable. They can't be anywhere where they are. So they keep an eye on all the Chinese students. They make sure that they cannot have any wrong think about China. Okay? And anyone who tries to present anything about China, like I did, which is not glowingly positive and what they think is what should be presented, they will try to shut you down. At least they try to intimidate you. And, you know, they're the kind of people that if the Dalai Lama is going to have a chat, or, you know, someone wants to do a free Tibet, you know, thing or whatever, they will sabotage it. You know, those are the guys who ensure that everything's sabotaged. They're heavily connected to the government in China and Beijing through the consulates and stuff. And this is in your school, in your university. So I want everybody to just see it for what it is. I'm not saying like, oh, don't go take the Mandarin class. If you want to learn Mandarin, that's fine. But don't buy into the propaganda, and at least be aware of what they're doing there. You know what I mean?
You know, and I like to keep harping on, if the Chinese students are uncomfortable enough to leave to know what's going on, then you should probably be looking into this. It's gotten so bad to the point where Sweden completely got rid of the Confucius Institutes. They were like, get the hell out of here. You're infiltrating with wrong think is bad, CCP tactics, communist tactics in a free country. You can't do that. It harasses people that leave China to have a free education. This is not education related, but I want to refresh your memory. I don't know if we've ever told everyone this. When we did our premiere for Conquering Northern China, which is the sequel to our first documentary.
Yeah, we actually had it in a theater.
In a theater.
Sold out seats. It was amazing.
Sold out. Was so cool. And it was just so cool. And but we were able to talk to everyone too. And afterwards, after everyone was kind of filtering out and taking photos with us, it was just fans. There were some other YouTubers there that showed up.
Yeah, it was great.
What's his name? Who showed up? Cher, you know, Cher's son.
Yeah, sure. Like Sunny and Cher.
Yeah, her son showed up. But anyway, we were standing there. Everyone's super chill, taking photos. It was actually really heartwarming.
Yeah.
And we were approached by Chinese state media CCP officials in LA.
Yeah, in our...
They were in there. They were obviously tasked to go watch our show.
Yeah.
And they basically walk up to us and they're like, we'd like to chat at some point. We'd like to talk about some future opportunities. And we were like, but it was such a bad vibe. They were so like condescending, and they're like, please let us add your information. And we like, I think I gave them a fake WeChat.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And they're like, can we get your phone number? I was like, no, you know, WeChat's fine. I gave them like a fake WeChat or whatever. And we got out of there. Thankfully, they didn't follow us to the post party at the bar. But even in LA, in my own country, we were chased down by CCP officials. And this is how bad it's gotten. It's much worse in countries like Australia. But if we're seeing that firsthand, like you did in Tucson or us at this meetup, I mean, how far has it gone? You know?
It's gone too far. And the problem is because the Western world is too open and too nice. They can't see the wood for the trees.
Sure.
So, you know, when you've got people, basically government agents running around freely on the campuses of your university, shutting people down, intimidating the students, and all you do is like, oh, they're so nice. They're just bringing culture. And I know that the language barrier is one of the main reasons why they get away with this, because they can actually put up signs on notice boards and stuff saying, you know, like anything that they want, and nobody will know because like the main administration and stuff walk past, it just looks like Chinese. They don't understand what it says, but they could say stuff like down with democracy and put it up there, and you know, nobody will be able to tell what they're saying or what they're organizing.
They could do that anyway, but they could put like very malicious things.
They could put incredibly bad things up there, like if you talk about Xi Jinping, we will kill you.
Right.
You know, but that's one thing that I'm planning to do when this whole COVID thing goes over, is I'm going to be driving around the country with you, and we're going to go to all the like Asian supermarkets, Asian areas where they got those billboards, because last time we went to an Asian supermarket, the stuff we saw posted up there, they're basically just putting illegal stuff out there in the open, and we're going to translate this. We're going to blow the lid off this crap because we're tired of this nonsense going on beneath our noses here.
And I think the biggest change, at least in the education sphere, that this could come from is not even from us. It's definitely from the students Chinese students who are being harassed. Although their families might be like under stress basically, and they're worried about everything back home, if more of them would stand up, I think universities and American people would actually pay attention to it. Because if they're being undermined and threatened by CCP officials basically within their own university, there would have to be an investigation of sorts. They can't stay silent. You guys have to speak up.
Yeah, please speak up, because that's not how the Western world works. You know, in China, you can't do it. You can't even fly an American flag in the soil of China. They'll take it away. You can't have a George Washington Institute in the Beijing University that puts up American propaganda, because that's literally what they're doing.
Right.
You know,
it is straight up.
You can't do it in China. It's this double standard thing. So we have to be aware. Anyway, it's time for some super chats before we move on to our next.
Correct. Cool. Zach Miller Corin says, let's have a good one. Great to finally catch you live.
Thank you for being here live. It's very nice to have you.
Douyin Hunter, it's getting hot.
Yep.
Vishal Anand, silver bullet for Winston, only for you apparently.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, because you
don't need that. You need warm beer.
Let's not start this debate again.
Yeah.
Sean Wayland, read Against Intellectual Property by patent attorney Stefan Kinsella at the Ludwig von Mises Institute, free online. We'll have a look.
All right.
Vishal and Mikolo for Seamilk. Thank you very much, Vishal. Sammy El Alto. Oh, I know that guy. He's a patron. Buy some beer. We will. We'll have some beer tomorrow.
Absolutely. Tomorrow's our drink. We drink on Fridays. That's the way we can keep things out of control.
Yeah.
Fridays only, not during the week.
Steve,
it's the only way. Otherwise, we'd get nothing done.
We'd also be fat.
Yeah. Well,
Steve,
it's too late.
Yeah, it'd be fatter.
Yeah.
Steve Taylor, thank your info on COVID has put me so far in front of the news. Thank you. And thank you, Steve.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Anonymous says some silly words.
Okay.
He says ice, China,
from.
Yeah. Why has this always got a snap like this?
I don't know.
Okay. And I'll do Luis Estrada, thank you. And Ali, thanks for continuing to release great content. Loving Worthless Whips. What's your opinion on NTD China in Focus News? I think it's pretty good in the way that they actually have some context within China. They speak Chinese, which is invaluable. So much better than something like CNN.
Right.
Always remember that there's going to be some sort of bias there. It doesn't mean it's not factual, though. So, take it for what it is. And we're going to move on to...
yes, next, of course, is Guanxi Corner, where we talk about... everything to do with relationships, whether they are romantic, business, or otherwise.
That is correct. And I'm going to pull up our Guanxi Corner from a patron and supporter from us. And I'll leave the names out just in case. I don't think they care. But hey, good morning. Hope you and your family are doing well. I'm struggling with our something-year-old son. He's starting an apprenticeship. He's been waiting for 2 years. So I think it's just a matter of time before my husband and I and our son, or one of us, gets sick. And then all of us are scared. I'm scared. I was wondering, is China rethinking the strange foods they eat? Is the CCP making changes in the dietary sections of the wet markets? Are they teaching people to stay away from exotic things that make you sick? And I promised that we would talk about this.
No.
The wild animal trade has just moved to the internet.
Yeah.
They just caught 15,000 very rare turtles coming from Mexico going to China, I believe today, in a cargo ship.
Yep.
That is one of many that probably have not been caught.
Yeah.
The education outside of banners, being held up saying don't eat wild animals, pretty much stops there at that point. All wet markets are still open. There's been very, very few changes to that.
Yeah, I got another one here where there are, it's just boxes you can't really see, but this is from Namibia. Those are boxes of scorpions. You can see that, right? There's like millions of scorpions. Also busy being sent,
good
sent
riddance.
over.
Get rid of those.
Well, I mean, the thing is that the wildlife populations are being decimated, and it's all for this like insatiable
Chinese
hunger for these weird animals. It's not stopping. It's not going to stop. It's too profitable.
Yeah.
It's like a few $billion business.
Well, and again, whenever they crack down on something, it's just about face, right? Saving face. So when the Chinese government says, yes, we banned everything, well, then why do we not see the ban in action?
No, it absolutely will not change. And at the most positive thing that can come out of this is that it'll slow down because it's going to be harder.
Yeah, but that's just ridiculous.
I know. I said that's the most positive thing. It's not what's going to happen.
I mean, you can go on Baidu and there's Wuhan forums. And they're like, oh crap, at this normal wet market we can't buy the wild game, and then they have lists of other places and streets they meet on to trade wild game.
Exactly. It's kind of like we said. They, things like prostitution are illegal, yet there are adverts for prostitution on the poles.
Correct.
And like put under your door and stuff, but it's illegal. But just because it's illegal on paper makes people breathe easy. So everyone in the rest of the world can think, oh, yeah, China, prostitution's illegal, so they're a very moral country. Meanwhile, it's the most rampant country for prostitution I've ever been exposed to.
And human trafficking
and stuff like that. You just happen to go anywhere, and there's prostitutions on offer everywhere. Everybody does. It's just very normal. Yet it's banned and illegal. So you'll find the same thing with these so-called wildlife bans happening, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for the bad news.
Yeah.
Dursebi, finally stayed up to catch you live. Guess here's one beer on me. Stay well. Keep doing what you're doing. Greetings from Marburg, Germany.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's how you say it.
The Indian dude. India just revealed that Chinese COVID-19 tests have a 90% fail rate. I believe Canada found an 80% fail rate as well.
Yeah.
And that's my quote.
Right.
And they are doing this to a country with a worse healthcare system than China. Thank God for South Korea. We were so worried about India because if there's going to be a country ravished by something like this.
Yeah, especially in the rural areas, because I've been in the rural areas of India, and
well, that's what happens when you cover something up for a government face.
Look, if the 90% of the test kits have failed, what about the ones in China? What if they're all failing too? What if they can't get positive numbers because they're all failing?
Right. Not only will they hide the numbers, they don't even have them to be.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough one, man. Look, just stay safe, and look, like yesterday when we were driving around in the cars wearing masks, a lot of you guys are like, why do you have to do that? It's always better safe than sorry.
Agreed.
It's so easy to just step out of your comfort zone. I mean, get into your comfort zone and do something like, oh, I'm going to go check my post. I'll just go check the post. When you check your post, put some damn gloves on, wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Go to the post box, take your thing out, disinfect the mail before you actually touch it with your bare hands. So just open it all outside and throw away what you don't need. Keep
and then
and then disinfect and then wash your hands. Like you have to, it's going to be a hassle, but if you want to totally avoid any chances, or at least most chances, take those extra steps.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
It's not embarrassing to do so. Just do it.
Just do it.
If you care about your health.
Yeah.
SC1338 asks the same thing. Do you still have the clown punching t-shirt? Maybe in the future. Ellen Williamson, thank you.
Thank you. What was that question? I'm just curious.
You can't see.
It seems to have disappeared.
Our moderator deleted it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Sorry.
But,
could have been bad. Who knows?
Hopefully we can answer your question through different means.
Yeah. Josema Fernandez Barreras. As a cyclist yesterday, almost died going up in the mountain with a mask. But security is first. Cheers, dudes. Always top information.
I don't know how you do that, man.
It's crazy, right? We were dying in the car.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're cycling and stuff, I don't see why you have to wear the mask the whole time. It's all about if you're
in a populated area.
If you're close to people. So I'd be like, keeping it around about here, and then as soon as I even see a person on the horizon or something,
But if he's in a very populated area,
makes
definitely.
Sense.
Cairo, what drone do you use for photography? Phantom, thanks for the hard work.
That is many. It doesn't remember. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what drone you use. It's how you use it to get the shot. But I've used everything from a Phantom 3 right in the beginning. Then I had a Phantom 4. I personally had a Phantom 4 for the longest time. We used your Mavic, the original Mavic. We have a Mavic Air, and we have a Spark. We used a Spark a lot because it's crappy. It's only 1080p, but you can still get great shots. Some of my best shots I shot on the Spark, actually, amazingly enough. And we recently, because when we went to Vegas, on the way our drone died, just had a firmware error, just wouldn't work, so we bought the Mavic Air, that little one. No, not Air. No. What's it? Mini. Mavic Mini. And that, I love it.
It's quiet.
It's now my favorite drone.
Doesn't have to be registered because it's under 50 grams or whatever.
It doesn't have all the features of the other drones, like auto tracking and stuff, and it doesn't have sensors.
That's fine.
But the thing is, it's cheap enough that if you crash it, you won't worry that much, and it's still brilliant. The footage, if you saw the footage when we went to that Tiananmen Square monument.
Yeah, check that out.
Yeah, I filmed it all on that drone. Yeah.
Cool. I'll do one more.
Okay.
Case closed. 93. Do you think China controls TikTok to promote divisive content, particularly regarding race and racism? Because I know that stuff bleeds into our mainstream news. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're protecting themselves, really. That's why they push on the For You page. They push propaganda so much, and also they've like that one girl that wanted to talk about Uyghur activism, and she did that eyelash tutorial. They deleted that post, but that was in America.
Yeah.
And then they denied doing that.
It's a tough one. I mean, look, TikTok. I don't watch TikTok. I think it's dumb. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me because I still have like my other social media. I got Instagram and Reddit and stuff. But for me, TikTok is for just like chewing gum for the brain, for people that are just bored out of their mind, just flipping through rubbish. But don't forget that TikTok is Douyin. TikTok is a Chinese company. TikTok is fully owned by China. And so they kind of they've got this kind of situation where they allow sort of semi-freedom of speech to exist on it, but they're still keeping an eye on what's going on.
Of course,
if someone tries to step over a line, they'll still find a way to get rid of it, So just remember, you are supporting the Chinese Communist Party if you are supporting TikTok. Just keep that in mind. It's a tough one because
I do it to monitor.
Yeah,
Chinese
when you like something and you find out that it's bad for, it's kind of like if you, I don't know, eating pistachio nuts, and then you find out that little kids in Honduras or something are suffering because they have to peel it with their little toe or something, and then you're like, but I really like pistachio nuts, and then you're like, what am I going to do? It's a moral dilemma.
It is.
So just think about the bigger picture, guys. Are you going to continue to support TikTok? Probably not such a good idea.
Okay.
Or make a TikTok account that only criticizes the CCP.
Do that en masse. Let's do it.
Yeah,
just make a TikTok account that's anti-CCP and pro-Chinese people.
So it's time for Worldview, and this is where we talk about things going on in the world, but mainly to do with China.
That is absolutely correct.
Because this show is kind of just about China mostly.
Did you finally admit it?
Well, I mean, we like to talk about other things too, but mainly China. We have a little update here from the UN, so let's listen to some of it, and we'll interrupt along the way.
19 does not care who we are, where we live, what we believe, or about any other distinction. We need every ounce of solidarity to tackle it together. Yet, the pandemic continues to unleash a tsunami of hate and xenophobia, scapegoating and scaremongering. Anti-foreigner sentiment has surged online and in the streets.
That means a wholly different thing to me.
Anti-foreigner sentiment. Now, I would like to point out that this guy's going on about, like, what's going on here, guys? There's so much hate happening here. There's so much xenophobia happening here. There's so much anti-foreigner sentiment. But all he's basically saying is stop asking questions about, or stop saying it came from China. That's all he's doing. Right. The thing is, you could flip this around because exactly what he's saying is what's happening in China.
He said anti-foreign sentiment. For me, I'm like, huh? Oh, that's what he means.
Because let's face it here. People aren't saying like, hey, look, the virus came from Mexico. People are not saying, hey, the virus came from Nigeria. Actually, they are in China.
Oh, yeah, that's a new thing.
Sorry. But
Nigeria sued China.
Yeah, they sued China.
Because of elephant penises.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, the thing is, when you've got the UN coming out here and saying all these things about, look, well, let's just let him continue.
Yeah.
Let's let him continue.
Semitic conspiracy theories have spread, and COVID-19 related anti-Muslim attacks have occurred. Migrants and refugees have been vilified as a source of the virus and then denied access to medical treatment. With older persons among the most vulnerable, contemptible memes have emerged suggesting they are also the most expendable. And journalists, whistleblowers, health professionals, aid workers, and human rights defenders are being targeted simply for doing their jobs. We must act now to strengthen the immunity of our societies against the virus of hate.
Well, he just lost all the young community with his pronunciation of meme.
Memes, yeah.
What's a meme?
I don't know. Anyway, no, seriously. What he's saying here is, it's commendable. I like this idea that we should...
Of course!
Hate is not something that we need, in the world, if it's at all possible. But, we need to work together here. But this is a smokescreen that's being thrown up. The UN is coming out and basically throwing up the smokescreen and try to say, oh, there's anti-Semitic, there's anti-Muslim, there's anti-this, there's anti-that. Let's stop pointing fingers. Let's stop being xenophobic. I don't see people running around saying like, you're Muslim, you're responsible for the virus, or like, oh, you're Jewish, so you're responsible. I haven't seen that.
I'm curious. I wish there was a ticker of how many anti-Muslim racism that's been going on because of coronavirus.
Yeah, or anti-Jewish.
I mean, I guess it's probably out there, but this is a smokescreen for China.
Yeah,
because he talks about these minority communities, right? These they're particularly vulnerable for all this hate.
Anti-foreigner sentiment. What does that even mean?
So Chinese people are foreigners now, right?
Yeah, but who is he talking to here? Just the Western world, obviously.
Right. I mean, this would fly completely under the radar if China wasn't just appointed to the UN Human Rights Council.
Correct.
This is just, it reeks of like tone deafness, and it looks too suspicious. Like there was some directive from China. China was like, listen, we're really under attack right now because, it totally didn't come from here and people are being mean. Wah.
Yeah, well, look at the stink they made up because Australia wants to have an inquiry into like where it came from.
Yeah, and they're like banning, like you don't get medical supplies.
But you know what they actually did now is they've actually like blocked imports of Australian beef, which is
retaliation.
Like 30% of their market or something.
For wanting to know where it came from.
Yeah, for wanting to know where it came from. So because the questions are starting to mount up, and you know what, for the longest time, I think the whole world has been kind of like, look, we're not going to push it. Just kind of admit it. Come on, like let us let us know what happened. You know, we're not gonna be mad at you. Just kind of tell us what the deal is. Can you give us some proper information? Can you be a bit more transparent? And all they do is fight back with, you're racist. We're gonna not import your stuff. We're not gonna do business with you. If you keep doing this, you will damage the relationship between China and New Zealand, or China and this and that. They're keeping so bloody belligerent that it's got to a point where the rest of the world is like, listen, no, screw you. Right. Tell us what the hell you did.
Right.
And let us know.
You're seeing a lot of governments and actually news outlets that are like, okay. There's a chance that it came from China. Not just directly saying that, right? Yeah. There's a chance, but now is not the time. Let's work together as a community, which is fine. Yeah. But China's not part of that community right now if it's run by the CCP, right? Yeah. And they go, let's put it on the back burner. We'll look into this later. No. We need to figure this out now.
Yeah, we absolutely do have to figure out what's going on. And so you've got this guy whose advice I would direct to China, or the CCP.
Me too.
Because what's happening in China is anti-foreigner and xenophobic and anti-everything. I mean, they're super anti-Muslim, you know?
Yeah, obviously.
The Uyghurs and stuff. But like, all of this advice should not be out there to protect China with a smokescreen. It should be directed towards China.
Yeah. Honestly. So you know what? That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
This message that from the UN, this was towards China.
And only
China. Internalize that.
Yeah.
That is why I'm appealing today for an all-out effort to end hate speech globally. I call on political leaders to show solidarity with all members of their societies and build and reinforce social cohesion. I call on educational institutions to focus on digital literacy at a time when billions of young people are online and when extremists are seeking to prey on captive and potentially despairing audiences. I call on the media, especially social media companies, to do much more to flag and, in line with international human rights law, remove racist, misogynist, and other harmful...
Racist!
Hang on, I gotta ask, what does misogyny have to do with this virus? And
I mean, no. I think it's, like you said, a smokescreen. He has to link it back to a much bigger anti-hate picture.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not saying I'm for misogyny or anything, but it's absolutely not related to this whole virus thing, because he's talking about hate speech and xenophobia based on the origins of the virus. So he said that right in the beginning. What does misogyny have to do with that? Did anyone ever say this is a woman's virus and it belongs in the kitchen? I never heard that.
COVID-19, make me a sandwich.
No, quite seriously though, the fact that he's put racist and misogynist together means it's just like every other, like, dude, scapegoat, garbage. You want somebody to shut up, you just call them a racist, misogynist, bigot, blah, blah, blah. String these things together, and it's like a gold standard to win an argument, or it's a gold standard to make people shut up and not question you.
You know what effed me up? Was him calling on governments to flag, in social media, to flag content. Stop moderating our content, guys. Yeah. We don't need more of that. You know what that is? It's Chinese soft power censorship.
It is.
Calling on all social media, please be China and block everybody that disagrees with you.
Well, that's what they want. So
because listen, when he started the video by saying we're talking about the origins of COVID-19, that means everything he says after that is related.
Yeah,
it does.
It does. So he wants anyone who questions or asks, like, does it come from China or it's a Chinese virus? They have to be flagged and censored on social media.
That's what he's calling from the UN.
Yeah, this is what is happening, and people don't read between the lines because they don't understand what's going on. But apparently, you know, you can't be misogynist towards the origin of this virus anymore.
Yeah, dude. Because someone that wrote a paper on the research of it might have been a woman, and you disagree with her.
Maybe that's what it is. But I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
Shut up, Grandpa.
Yeah, and learn how to say memes.
Content. I call on civil society to strengthen outreach to vulnerable people and religious actors to serve as models of mutual respect. And I ask everyone, everywhere, to stand up against hate, treat each other with dignity, and take every opportunity to spread kindness.
Perfect message for China.
That's a great message for China. Stop the hate.
Oh wait, they don't have religious leaders in China.
Yeah, they're not allowed to.
They're jailed.
You know, that's the thing is, when you've seen what's been going on in China towards foreigners, and if you watched our videos recently,
and their minorities,
yeah, and the Chinese minorities, you'll understand that this message is perfectly suited to the heads of the CCP. And, you know, I like the words that he has at the end here about spreading kindness and stuff, and I agree with
That's
him.
how clever this is.
But don't you dare try to lecture me on this. Don't you dare try to make me stop questioning where the virus came from. And don't you dare try to tell me that it's racist and misogynist and hateful to talk about facts.
Or to blame the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Do we just get shut down?
Maybe.
Pop back in.
This is very interesting. Did we actually get shut down? This could be the first time this has happened.
Let me pull it up on another window.
Yeah, please do. I'll pull it up over here. Guys, bear with us because it looks like we've been shut down. Which is going to be very interesting.
What the heck? This is
weird.
My YouTube. Monkey.
You got a monkey. All right, guys, please bear with us. If you are there right now, it looks like for all intents and purposes we are not streaming on our side, which is kind of interesting. If we have been shut down.
YouTube's not loading. Let me try like Reddit or something.
Okay. Please hang 10.
Yeah, Reddit's fine. Wikipedia's fine.
How about we try from one of our phones?
Yeah, do it from data.
Yeah. Turn off Wi-Fi. Sorry, guys. Just in case people are out there, maybe you can entertain them with
Maybe we're
little,
buffering. Well, right
story.
now, the little story is what's actually happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
We are now dealing with YouTube's maybe gone down. That's actually what we should check. Is YouTube down?
No, I think.
Yeah.
There's a problem with the server.
Let's try a different video, dude. Like a random video.
No. I think we're up. Let me see. No, I think. Yeah.
Oh, we are up. Interesting.
Well, we apologize because there's some kind of a weird thing going on here. I don't know if the comments is working or what's going on. So,
we're blind.
Let us just pretend that everything is okay in case.
Can you run it on your phone in the background, silent, just to make sure?
Okay, I will.
And we'll keep an eye on it.
Alrighty.
Yeah, comments are down in terms of what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So interesting. I wonder what happened here.
Yeah, it's
Should
very
I reload
strange.
this, but I don't want to lose the super chats.
No, don't do that. Just open another window if you can.
Okay.
This is ridiculous. I wonder what has caused this.
Yeah, it just looks like YouTube's being a bad boy. What
Think
the
you-
heck? Look at this. Oh.
Data is currently unavailable.
For our videos.
Well, if anyone is still watching this, we appreciate you hanging through with this, and I think it's let's just continue just in case.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I want you to have the what's it called in the background, just to make sure we're still up.
I'm trying now. My phone's having issues even on data.
Interesting.
Yeah. So maybe YouTube's actually having issues.
Yeah.
Okay, I am bringing it up here, and
Audio's
I
good?
mean, I can't see any kind of comments or anything, but yeah, it looks like it's still going. Yeah.
Okay, so there's potentially people
Okay,
can see.
so
us.
guys,
Okay.
sorry for that long thing. We're just gonna continue anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So after this guy has all of his little bits and
I
pieces
launched
to
the
say,
United Nations Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech to enhance United Nations efforts against this scourge. As we combat the pandemic, we have a duty to protect people and stigma and prevent violence. Let's defeat hate speech and COVID-19 together.
All right. So anyway, speaking about hate speech and whatnot, can you tell everybody what the Global Times has just released?
Now, for all of those uninitiated, China and Taiwan are separate countries, but China believes that it's its rightful territory to take back from democratic Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened, this is what triggered this, was Taiwan formally relinquished the idea, or relinquished the law that says we are the rightful rulers of China. Actually, we're just going to have Taiwan. We have our own democracy, our freedom, everything.
Yeah.
And China actually got mad. It sounds, the uninitiated would be like, why wouldn't they be happy about that, you know? No, the reason is because the Republic of China, the one that kind of had status quo with mainland China, the PRC, they're not in power anymore. The independent party's in power, and that's China's worst nightmare, is for Taiwan to be on the global stage and recognized as a country, because then they formally lose the territory.
And so many people or countries are starting to wake up and see that Taiwan is actually the reasonable person to deal with in that part of the world, because, you know, they first of all dealt with this pandemic fantastically, better than most countries.
Every country.
Yeah, they are the best. They know exactly how to deal with it. They had a fantastic rate. They've been donating good quality masks to places like Canada and the US and Australia, etc.
Well.
Yeah, they've been helping people with actual aid, where China's been doing this kind of like, we will only donate if you praise us kind of thing. And then when they do donate, they either ask for payment, or it turns out that all the masks and stuff are faulty and bad quality anyway.
So the Chinese Communist Party is always, basically, I could say every month, threaten war against Taiwan to take it back.
Yeah.
It's all a puff piece. They're a paper tiger. They won't do this because it could potentially lead to a much bigger global crisis. Yeah. China has no formal military allies. America is allied with Taiwan, as are a bunch of countries, basically, that would come to back them up. So the Global Times just points this out. And keep in mind, the CCP, you might think of it as an evil dictatorship, but they like to promote this international image that they're a peaceful nation.
Sure.
Doves flying in the air.
Yeah.
We only care about international stability. They say landing exercises, and this is the Communist Party, by the way, landing exercises aimed at taking over islands have become the hashtag PLA. That must be a trending tag.
Yeah.
Regular training sessions. Dongsha, Penghu, and Taiwan are all islands. And if Taiwan secessionists insist on secession, military exercises can turn into action at any time. Well, that's so peaceful, isn't it?
I mean, so they're basically saying, we're training to take you over, and if you don't shut up and do what we say, we're going to take you over.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of heat, and we'll cover this probably in the next podcast, when the presidential inauguration happens, when Tsai Ing-wen actually gets inaugurated. The U.S. actually sent over military ships around Taiwan just in case something happens
just in case something
happens,
which is good, because it very well might.
Sure.
Oh man, well this is a terrible way to wrap up today, because we can't. Well, we're going to still answer.
You know what we can do?
What's that?
I will export all of these super chats, and either we can do a separate video about that, or we can put them into the next one as well. It's up to you, because we don't know. They could be wasted if we talk about them now.
Yeah, I suppose
we don't know if anyone can see this.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Let's do that.
So I'll export all of your super chats. They did not go to waste. We will definitely answer them.
Yeah.
If it's not on video, check our community post. Actually, why don't we answer them on community post?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? We can do that.
No, we won't.
Why not? We can do it on video.
Oh, on video.
Post it on community.
Yeah. Okay.
So go to the ADV Podcast Community tab and click that probably tomorrow. Yeah. We'll put out a little video where we answered all of these.
Sounds good.
And then you guys can watch it. Okay?
Sounds perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We apologize for these last-minute problems. Obviously, this is not our fault. This is a YouTube thing, but it sucks that we had to kind of cut it short like this. We have a lot more to discuss on the
Apologies,
subject.
guys. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And we will definitely answer your questions tomorrow. Don't worry.
Absolutely.
It'll be up.
Keep track, everybody, of what's going on in China, and especially with the people infiltrating perhaps your university, perhaps your business. Just be mindful that this kind of thing could be going on. Tomorrow, I will be doing a live stream on my channel, if, of course, it works, because who knows?
Who knows?
And I will be discussing, a very sort of obvious question. Is China actually our friend? Yeah. I'm going to find out.
That's good.
Anyway, I'll speak to you all tomorrow, and until next time, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome, guys.